Hello, thank you for watching. I'm Jannarone, editor-in-chief of IPO Edge, here with David Rosenberg, who's co-founder and CEO of AeroFarms. David, thanks for joining me here on the sidelines of the ICR Conference in Orlando.
Great to be with you, John.
Great. Now, David and I actually got to know each other virtually back in the COVID days. And so this is our first time meeting in person, which has happened a few times this afternoon. We published an analysis on his company, which at the time was going to go public through a SPAC. David, I think, prudently decided against that. We're going to dig into that and a lot more here, but let's just step back for a moment. And David, can you just give a quick overview of the company and what you guys are up to?
So we're a vertical farming company. We define that as level upon level of growing plants. And the idea is to grow plants 365 days a year where we fully control the environment. So there's no issue of seasonality and our customers get consistent, excellent quality product 365 days a year. And we're selling that side of the business through retailers like Whole Foods to Walmarts, to online retailers like Fresh Direct, food service to different places like Restaurant Associates, and through Baldor's different distributors domestically, and now we're going internationally as well.
Great. Now, when we first got introduced to your company, David, I believe that you had the Newark facility, but you've added a couple since then. So I believe Danville, Virginia, and you've got another one coming up in the Middle East. Tell us a little bit about the news the last 2 years since we spoke.
Yeah, so our facility in Virginia and Danville, it's about 135,000 square feet, about 50 feet high. And there's automation in seeding, harvesting, cleaning, packaging, imaging, and automation between automation. So what that does is it improves quality, and it also lowers the operating cost when you have less labor in the facilities. It's operating at a greater size. So we have about 48 row towers that are 50 feet high. And it was commissioned, or it's still being commissioned and still being built out, but it's selling to places like Whole Foods nationwide. So we're selling as we build.
Great. And a metric I remember looking at and finding really intriguing was comparing your productivity per square foot compared to, say, a traditional farm or even a greenhouse. And just remind me, David, how much more are you producing?
So we grow plants between 4 days, our crop cycle of growing, to 14 days. And that's the equivalent of 3 to 5 days in the field. So 30 to 40 days in the field, but basically 26 to 90 crop turns a year is the equivalent of 3 to 5 crop turns. So 26 to 90 versus 3 to 5. So the productivity is tremendously high.
And David, something that I also remember is that, I often buy triple washed produce or leafy greens at Whole Foods and Publix where I shop. But one of the cool things about your produce is that there's no dirt on it, right? So it's already clean. Is that right?
Yeah, it is. And washing, when you stop to think, why do we wash? We wash to get pesticides, herbicides, fungicides off, all things you don't want in your body. And according to like USDA, after a thorough wash, there's still residue pesticides, herbicides, fungicides still on the plants. So we don't wash because there's nothing to wash off. So we grow without pesticides, herbicides, fungicides. It's, in my mind, better than organic because organic often has organic pesticides, but we have zero. Additionally, washing is a critical control point where a micro contamination becomes a macro contamination. If there's a contamination, it gets washed and moved around and spread. So without washing, we reduce the risk there. Additionally, washing damages a very fragile product. Drying damages a very fragile product. So we keep the product itself healthy.
All right, that's really helpful. Now, something I also remember discussing with you back in the day is that I was not able to buy your produce because you don't want it to be shipped off too far. Is that right? So basically, if you're growing in New Jersey or in Virginia, you're delivering for the most part to states that are right nearby. Is that correct?
It used to be, but to your point, we now sell nationwide to Whole Foods. So we were positioned as local. Whole Foods realized people aren't buying us because we're local. That is a feature, but they're really buying us because it's better. So we like to say, let's only grow products that we can do distinctive products, great taste, great texture, great nutritional value. And the customers appreciate that and want it, whether it's local or whether it's on the West Coast. So now it's just simply positioned as better product, and it's certainly selling locally, but it's also selling very well nationwide. So Whole Foods, we're the first controlled environment ag company to sell nationwide with Whole Foods.
That's great. So I might be able to find your leafy greens all over the country now.
You can, and everyone could enjoy it. And it's great to say, just go to your local Whole Foods place and enjoy it. On the East Coast, we're on many more retailers up and down the East Coast, and we're in places like Walmart as well. So we're hitting many different demographics, and the product is resonating at these different demographics.
Oh, and that's a good point. I mean, you're at places like ShopRite, but also Whole Foods, which have a different kind of shopper, right?
Exactly. And people in different demographics, different retailers, they appreciate quality. And people are deciding to get quality products. And they're also starting to ask not only what is the product, but how is it grown? And we really lead with brand, celebrating our brand and how we grow, which educates the customer of no pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, using less water, and also how we treat our employees. So the whole narrative really resonates with our customers.
Great. And as I recall, you've had for a few years now a research facility in Abu Dhabi, but there's also a new tower project that's coming up in Qatar. Is that right? And how does that fit into your strategy in the Middle East?
Well, if you think of the dynamics, so there's a lot of sand, not as much farmland. There's not as much fresh water. You do have relatively low cost energy. So they import about 90% of their fruits and vegetables in a lot of the countries there. It aligns well with our value proposition. And we purposefully built our facility in Abu Dhabi that could really act as an ecosystem of a lot of knowledge workers at our facility that could help build other facilities in other parts of the region. So that is a major focus point for the company. And we're excited to build something in Qatar, right on the tail of the World Cup there and the energy going on in Qatar, in the UAE, and other places in the region.
All right, great. Now, I think that you're also expanding into some fruits, so berries, in addition to leafy greens. And I think it was early days when we spoke about that last time, how things progressed.
It's progressed really well. So we've grown about over 70 different varieties of berries.
Wow.
And here we've been growing berries for about 3 years. We have excellent quality berries, excellent yields that relate to cost of goods sold. Now it's about scaling it up, and we're working to scale it up. It just takes time, and we contemplate whether we want to sell a berry at a premium, which is until we scale up where the berries are. We'll work to get our cost structure down, just focus to get our cost structure down to have at a price where we could have an excellent quality differentiated berry at a market clearing price. And that's what we're working on now. We're not ready to share what date we're going to launch that commercially, but we're working diligently towards that.
Great. Now let's shift gears for a second and talk finance. As I mentioned when we kicked this off, you had looked into going public and were close to doing so through a SPAC. And then I wouldn't say anything was wrong with your business, but the SPAC market certainly had its problems, and you elected for that reason, I believe, to postpone or pull that deal. How have you found growth capital outside of the public market since then?
Challenging, but for companies that are hitting milestones, it's available. So we raised a lot of capital in 2022, and we're raising more capital in 2023. Private capital, we're not going public in 2023. We are a public company ready, and a lot of have the processes and procedures that are appropriate for a public company, but right now focused on staying private and going after money that would be attracted with growth capital to our value proposition.
Now, something else that I find really interesting about your business model is that you're able to collect data and actually make these facilities more and more efficient. Is that right? Can you tell me how that works?
So we're very data driven, and digitally, our digital systems both control a farm and take information from the farm. So for us, that's our MES, which is like essentially the user interface that tracks plants through a farm. It's the SCADA system, the industrial controls, the PLC program logic controls that seamlessly tie into our sensors, valves, pumps, fans, lights, etc., and ultimately tie into our ERP system. and separates data to its use groups that go to whether it's quality assurance, operations, sales, marketing, finance, R&D. And ultimately, besides controlling the farm, it's to understand what makes plants grow well. And how do we improve quality and how do we reduce cost? The biggest way to reduce cost is decrease the time that it takes a plant to grow. So a couple of years ago, we were growing a plant in 16 days. That's today 14 days. So that means we have more output per capital expense, more revenue per capital expense, better returns on investment. And it really starts with the data and understanding how the plants react to different environmental stresses, temperature, humidity, pH, nutrients, micronutrients, airflow. All of these factors influence biology. Those are all factors that we really can't control in a scientific way in the field because there are too many uncontrolled variables. We control them at our facility and really start to unlock what's happening with plant biology.
And is there scope, and this doesn't have to be right now, but you must have developed a lot of intellectual property here along the way. Could you possibly license some of that if someone else in, another country where, you're not ready to go yet, wanted to deploy that?
Yeah, absolutely. And we are an IP machine. We have over 350 invention disclosures, over 50 patents, pending patents, over 50 trade secrets. And the numbers are increasing continually as we continue to innovate along a host of different areas. And that's in 22 patent families. That tells you it's a broad base of intellectual property. And we think of it both where we could license and how do we make sure we protect ourselves. We have a good foundation and leadership. Let's make sure we're not blocked out of an industry that we're leading in, but very much there are opportunities to license technology.
All right, David, well, you've covered a lot of ground here. I'm going to give it back to you here and give you a chance to tell me what you're most excited about in 2023. We're 2 weeks into the new year. What are you most excited about this year?
Having our Virginia facility fully up and going and continue to break ground on new projects. So our customers responding, we want to quickly get more volume to our customers and continuing to build out these farms programmatically.
All right, great. Well, we're going to leave it there. David Rosenberg, it's great to meet you in person. This happened to me a lot today. Glad to see you in the flesh here. Thanks for joining us here in the ground at ICR, and hope to get to meet again soon. Thanks a lot.
Look forward to